Hey guys, it's BlockchainBrad or Brad Laurie, and today we're talking about privacy preservation. That's right, it's going to hit the blockchain. And to do this further, we have the CEO of ARPA. ARPA is the network that's looking at doing this. So thank you firstly to the CEO, Felix Xu, for your time today.
Thank you, Brad, for having me today. It's my honor.
Likewise, it's also mine. And thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I know you're very busy. You're currently in a hotel trying to get from A to B in many different meetings you have. Now, Felix, obviously there's a lot happening. As I mentioned before, a privacy preserving computation network is what you stand for. Let's start with that, with the nutshell response, that overview of ARPA or ARPA chain and what you're actually trying to do.
Right. So basically, we are a privacy-preserving computation network that's compatible to blockchains as a layer 2 solution, right? So the blockchain can, through a smart contract, they can trigger our network to perform private computation. And the reason why we do this is that currently there's no a secure way for data sharing, right? So think about it. If I encrypt the data, I send it to you, and you decrypt it. And then what happened? Data, I just lost control on my data, right? Because you can use it, you can download it, you can, transfer it to whoever you want to. Right. So we started ARPA last April, to start, to solve this problem, not only on blockchain, but also just in the normal kind of data industry that we want to solve this biggest problem of data sharing, secure data exchange, or monetization, or data sharing for both enterprises and individuals, right? So, we use cryptography to tackle that problem, and it's called multi-party computation, which is our core technology.
Okay, so multi-party computation, that's something that is consistently prevalent throughout your literature, or obviously on your website. So let's explore that a little bit more and then we'll go on to some other mission statements. So multi-party, why does it matter? Why is it relevant? Why is it something that we actually need on the blockchain?
Right, that's a very good question. So basically, right now in the blockchain, so there are basically two problems. The first one is the blockchain itself. There's no privacy for blockchains. Think about transactions, smart contracts. Everything is exposed. Everything is transparent. The blockchain is supposed to have transparency, but if you think about large-scale adoption of blockchain, if you want to process valuable information on blockchain, you've got to have some sort of privacy preserving solution, right. In order to scale, and that's on blockchain. And for data, like I said, right now, people still, all the enterprises, data are in silos. If you think about, big data or AI, everything has to be trained, or everything has to be collected in order to train models or doing analysis. If you have multiple players or multiple parties involved in one computation. So we also solve that problem with our cryptography technology.
Okay, so obviously you're addressing the imperative of privacy in the smart contract, and we'll discuss this further, but aren't there other companies that you're aware of, I suppose, in this nascent industry right now that's emerging? Aren't there also others that are trying to do something where they're injecting privacy into the ecosystem, whether that be through a permissioned side chain or whether that be through the smart contract itself? Are there any that are doing something that, to your knowledge, like what you're doing?
Yeah, there are some projects, eventually want to achieve the eventual outcome that we have as well. So think about, other solutions, including TEE, Trusted Execution Environment, and usually people use, SGX, manufactured by Intel, use Trustzone, and which is manufactured by AMD, and also some other sort of TEEs. And there are also other projects doing, zero knowledge proofs or Mimble-Wimble, but I think, those targets different kind of things versus TEE or MPC. So right. If I compare, the competitors or the comps, it's going to be probably TEE or or fully homomorphic encryptions, and also MPC. Those are the three that's in parallel.
Okay, that's interesting because I was reading into Beam as well, and Beam have an enterprise focus. You mentioned Mimblewimble, and they are very much aligned with your ethos of the imperative of privacy, that for the sake of, or for the absolute need of enterprise to have some of their data closed, you know, for privacy reasons, but also for security reasons, and also just simply for trust so they can do business. Now, you know, again, what is the core feature that you have that others don't? Is it the multi-party computation specifically? Or are there other technological aspects to ARPA that really set them apart as a privacy preservation system, layer 2, that can really build out the potential of smart contracts and even for blockchains that you work with?
Yes. So if I compare multi-party computation to other type of privacy preserving technology, I would say is the most similar to the blockchain itself. Because think about blockchain is like everyone manage the same book of ledger, right? But then like for multi-party computation, you can think about it as a distributed computation on encrypted data for each party. So it's kind of like everyone's doing encrypted computation together. So it's naturally, so on theoretical kind of level, it's very similar to blockchain. And also it's purely decentralized, trustless. So also compatible to, to the blockchain kind of ideology. Right. So in the very beginning, we think MPC is a piece of very fascinating technology that's really, I think, built for blockchain. And think about cases on top of just this kind of multi-party computation network. Think about finance, insurance. You can have joint credit risk default solution, where you can have secure risk analytics between multiple parties, multiple companies, and think about individuals that they can manage their data or monetize their data more in a secure way with enterprises and get rewards.
Right.
A lot.
And what's interesting too is essentially for your startup, because obviously it's open protocol, open source, and then moves to some of those products and services, is that you're really focused on making sure that the enterprise themselves can focus on the data value, not just on the blockchain. So you're that data bridge of opening up the potential for interoperability, for access beyond those silos. And data seems to be one of those core foci of your own ethos.
Correct, yes. So that goes to our kind of mission statement, is that we want to break boundaries between, for data, right? We want to create this kind of secure network or bridges for data to flow between enterprises and individuals, using multi-party computation.
Got it. And you're doing that in sync with blockchain. Now, let's explore some of those missions more specifically. Efficiency is a buzzword, and also you want to be highly scalable. So I want to talk about those two things in the context of the smart contract proposal and also the computational sharding. Again, that's one step up, because that's when you really properly allow for clustering of nodes to try and be efficient and not essentially, overpower or exhaust the system.
Okay. Yeah. So, so if you think about, blockchain, in blockchain, we have the trust because we all doing the same work. We manage the same ledger so that everyone is immutable, right? Immutable for just one single party to write on top of it. But if you think about multi-party computation, so it's kind of like everyone still manages his or her own data, and everything that's being processed or being computed upon is encrypted. It's in encrypted forms, right? So during the whole computation, there's no decryption involved in the whole process. And also think about verifiability for the computation. If you use smart contract on the blockchain, and everyone has to so basically reach consensus for that computation, or they do the computation themselves for each of the nodes, right? So but then like if they trigger our network for private computation, there can only be a set of nodes. So say like 3 to 5 nodes that perform the computation, as long as the data provider is being one of the nodes, and he doesn't give up his own secret number, secret value
Right.
for his own data, right? And the whole computation process is verifiable because because it's kind of like built into our cryptography protocol. That's all the computation happen with a MAC check, with a Message Authentication Code that sum up to 0 if everyone does the computation according to the protocol, and there's no changes or there's no manipulation on the numbers or on the function that they compute upon.
Okay, so given that you put those mechanisms in place with the MAC, as you said, now clearly you want to make sure that scalability is addressed by doing this. So talk us through that in specifics. How are the numbers looking? How are you going to really afford for high throughputs? You know, because you're simply making sure that you don't have to use the entirety of the blockchain that is connected to the ARPA tech as layer 2.
Yes, that's a very good question. Actually, so just like, first I want to kind of emphasize the scalability is not the top priority for us. We still focus on the privacy, right? Especially on the separation of data utility from data ownership. That's what we do. But the scalability is kind of like a side effect, because we have verifiable computation that can be done by a smaller group of nodes instead of the whole network, right? So, and then back to your question on the efficiency, it's more like if I have 1,000 nodes, then I can perform probably 200 tasks at the same time versus one task for the same time.
Right. So you've explained all of that. Now let's explore the use cases as well, Felix, because obviously there's a suite of use cases that you've announced. Let's start with secure data queries, for example, and risk management. Talk us through the list you know of from that point forth in terms of evidencing true use case.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. Right. So think about, I'll give you a very simple example for credit kind of default solution from multiple banks, right? Say I'm an individual, I have both the, loans and also savings for 3 banks, right? And the banks, they don't share information with each other, at least not in the US. And so basically, if one bank wants to know the debt ratio for that person, there's no like feasible way for them to know it unless they have a data intermediary, say the credit bureau. They have all the data from all the banks. However, if they want to do it in a trustless way, or they want to save some money, they can use MPC across the 3 banks, right, and compute unencrypted data for each of the banks, but they can still get the result of that debt ratio, because basically you just compute unencrypted data for the sum of the loans divided by the sum of the savings, right? So it can all be done in an encrypted form using multi-party computation.
Right.
And that compared to say like other technologies like TE, you have to have all the data aggregated into one secure location to perform the computation, which is still kind of centralized at least from my point of view.
Right.
And it's also by the manufacturer of the TE.
It harps back again to things like Google or Facebook in the same analogy, is that if you ever have a hub for that data and a storage that is centralized, then again, you're simply not doing what you're doing, which is flipping that on its head, breaking down the silos, but doing it in a way that essentially is maximizing the value of blockchain.
Right. Yeah.
So in that context, with the multi-party computation, I wanted to ask you, is that going to be an open source technology that you offer with MPC, or are you going to somehow patent this, or are you going to make it in such a way where it's ARPA specific?
Right. So actually, like we will open source gradually. So it's going to be like stage by stage until we have like an okay or like a ramp. Our kind of ecosystem is ramping up.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So back to your question, yes, we are going to be open source, and also like think about the most fundamental cryptography protocol. It is open source. Actually, like you can find it, on the web, on all different kind of papers for cryptography. So what we do is we build a lot of things like for the algorithms. We can build it. We can make it faster. We can make it more easy to use by enterprises and in the future individuals. And also we build a platform on top of it, right? So that we can enable a lot of use cases as like plugins.
Right. Okay. So what about revenue in the future though? I mean, if you're open source and you're trying to offer this for ease of access, how then does ARPA build upon that to become viable as an entity that's sustainable with a model where you can make money for the long term?
Right. So think about Confluence on Kafka, right? Apache Kafka is an open source protocol, but then Confluence is it's a company with billions of valuation, right? So how do they do that? Like we can do technology installment, we can do customization for industry specific use cases. We can provide the platform for secure data exchanges and earn some transaction fee. So there's a lot of revenue that we can make. And in terms of the token, it's going to be based on the usage of the data. So think about in the data marketplace or data renting platform, people have different kind of data to provide and to use, and we can like the transaction and also the computation is going to be our token.
Right.
Token.
So, okay. So you've made it clear that the transactions, again, that utility comes from utilizing that token for all the different use cases, as you said, and for the purpose. But more to the point, though, is the revenue itself. Talk us through that, because sometimes the way different blockchains are designed is they also have services built on products that they create and build. So is there any other streams of revenue other than the token model that's the inherent integrity or the integral part of your system?
Right. So actually right now, our revenue from fiat is mostly from enterprises. And we do two things for the enterprises. The first one is the node installment and also the tech installment. And the other thing is we do customization for their specific use cases, because as you know, big corporations, they have, sometimes they have very kind of they have a lot of different needs, right? And they want us to build a full solution for them, just not to like throw them an open source protocol for them to build themselves. So that's the second thing. And the third thing is the usage, right? So for example, when we collaborate with one of the largest chemical company in the world, it actually assemble a group of chemical energy companies to become an alliance. And within that alliance, we use MPC network for them to do co-KYC, to do calculation of mark-to-market chemical price, and we also calculate some risk metrics on average for the whole industry, and they can do some inquiry upon that result.
Right.
So yeah. So basically, the company will. So basically, we will get a part of the revenue every time when they use it, and then that is converted into our token as well.
Okay. Now that's interesting, because that's the part I did want to ask, is that not only are you creating revenue and you have multiple different means in which you can do that, which you articulated, but more importantly, you're doing something many aren't, and that is having that back-end process of conversion and back-end handling, so that we can see that actually has real effect on the circulating supply, on the token itself.
That's correct. Because we have real use cases, and we solve like real business problems. And then like our token is kind of the circulation currency within that ecosystem. When people try to use our technology to solve their business problems.
Right, and I think you again made the point that yes, it may be that internal e-currency or the digital micro unit of account, but certainly it's also designed in such a way that it is a valid utility and therefore compliant with laws of the day in different regions of the world. So, I mean, we can ask that now. So are you compliant? Have you been following along with all the regulation requisites to make sure you can be deemed a utility?
Yes, we do. We also talk to top legal firms, and also we have our kind of legal opinions on the utility of the token.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. Now, just a rundown of some other use cases that were mentioned, things like secure data matching, multidimensional health analysis, you alluded to some of that, accurate marketing and advertising, and joint data analysis. So if you'd like to know more, obviously read the white paper or go through the website. That's where I got some of the information. But you made it clear that there are use cases. Now, let's discuss the testnet phase, because it goes from 1.0 down through to 3 phases, as I understand. That right now you've already done 1. So can you talk us through and update us on the testnet process?
Sure. Yeah, actually, like for our first testnet, we kind of showcase the ability and different kind of algorithms that we can process with multi-party computation. So the users can send a private computation request from the Ethereum smart contract. And then like that smart contract will be listened and will be routed into our computation network, currently hosted on AWS. We have 9 instances, so people can try it out. And then the computation is executed by our nodes, and then like the result, currently the result and the metadata will be sent back to the Ethereum. But in the future, the result can also be sent to a specific party who wants to kind of preserve that privacy of the results.
Okay.
And that's the first one of our testnet. We actually removed our second testnet. We'll just launch directly to the mainnet.
Oh, really? Because even the literature still suggests that you're going to have that Q2 testnet. So, and I noticed you're 2 months ahead. That's what's recently tweeted. So will that push your mainnet closer?
Actually, because right now we are doing several kind of business use cases, and we try to have kind of we want to have partnership with the top conglomerates, right? Mm-hmm. or top enterprises. So we actually gonna target mainnet still gonna be third quarter to early fourth quarter of this year.
Okay, so you're still keeping it there, but you're skipping over 2.0.
Yes.
Okay, that was the testnet. Now, I have to ask you this because you just basically let us know that you are there's a pipeline of partnerships and they're substantial. Let's explore that a bit more now, Felix. Tell us what you can that isn't NDA'd, or perhaps just a hint to us at the magnitude of some of these partnerships that ARPA is planning to work with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll give you a hint then.
Okay, give me some hints, yeah.
Because we do have NDAs with several of the companies, but then that's on the specific projects. So I still mention their names, but then probably not the specifics of the projects.
Sure.
Right now we partner with Sinochem, which is a Fortune 100 company, and it's one of the largest chemical and energy company in the world. And for Sinochem, we actually partner to assemble this alliance, including Sinopec, including Total, and as well as Shell, right? So all these large energy companies, and Sinochem wants to build a blockchain for all these companies. But then on top of that blockchain, we actually use MPC to build some data products. For example, we can do co-KYC. So say one manufacturer is the supplier for both Sinochem and also for Sinopec. We want to so they can calculate their kind of credit score among each other in an encrypted form, right? So basically, nobody will know who supplies to whom, but then they'll all know the average kind of credit score for that specific manufacturer or supplier.
Okay.
That's the product. We have the second product, which is the kind of the mark-to-market price for chemicals. You know, a lot of these chemicals, they're physical trading, just like traders making phone calls every day. However, for outsiders or stakeholders, say like financial institutions, trade, hedge funds, and also for manufacturers and factories, they want to know the mark-to-market price for a lot of these specific chemicals. So we can use MPC to calculate without losing the privacy for each of these large companies.
Right. Now, in that context, this is so interesting because, again, you're that data service, that decentralized data service for them in that multi-party capacity. Are they going to have their own blockchains, or will you help them build that too?
They actually have their own blockchains. They have their own developers, to build the blockchain on Hyperledger, and we will support the MPC network on top of their blockchain, right? So basically, actually, like right now, our business development efforts is mainly targeted to those blockchains, public blockchains and enterprises blockchains, because for these blockchains, they already connected to a lot of enterprises or banks or large corporations. So for example, we are also in talk with Baidu. So Baidu has this project called Super.
Well, just for those who don't know, Baidu is one of the largest, or how would you explain that particular company? It's a very large company from China.
It is. I think it's $60 billion, $6 billion in market cap. It's kind of the Chinese Google.
Yes.
It's China.
It's pretty big.
It's a huge company. It's a huge company. So they built blockchain as a service, BaaS, for several banks, for several leading banks in China, right? So they already have that blockchain running, and then like we will come in and we will build a layer 2 solution in order for these banks to share, to securely share their blacklists, and also to search for people who has multiple loans in multiple banks,
right?
And also calculate the debt ratio. A lot of things that we can do with MPC within the bank environments.
And Felix, that's a big deal. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just need to stop you on the discussion and talk about banks for a moment. Now, Baidu and banks, when you hear that coupling together, since Baidu have gone into the blockchain arena, essentially to try and experiment with how they can be part of this new wave of technology, that's a really big deal if they're going to utilize the multi-party computation that you offer. And in that sense, I want to ask you, are they happy that you are tokenized? Because that's a complexity that often businesses don't like. They like to see, ease of access, but how is it going to work between you and, for example, Baidu, or you and any bank for that matter, given that you are a tokenized economy essentially, but provide them with tech that they want?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So it actually happens to most blockchain companies that's operating in China, right? So our team is based in Beijing, so we comply to all the local laws. So basically, like we'll do it, so the usage will be converted into token, but that through backend handling. So that goes back to your question about how we exchange the token. Is going to be within kind of like the in-house process to exchange the token, and probably going to be we'll release the information on a monthly basis or so, but then back to your question, I don't think these banks are going to be very pleased for token, for token. It's happens to all the blockchain companies operating in China.
So do you have the resources given that to and enough team members to be able to handle this back-end handling? Because if you continue to get a substantial number of clients and they all want to work with fiat, have you got that capacity to do all this in-house?
I don't think it's a big problem for us.
Okay. Right. Well, that's exciting because, essentially it means that businesses can be done because business, like currently, fiat still rules the world. So you're allowing for the seamless interaction between the old system and the new.
Right. So actually, like they will know about. So like basically, we will market to them as like a gas fee. Think about it as a gas fee for using the network, right?
Yep.
But then the gas fee is going to be in token, but that's through our kind of backend handling. But to, you know, on the surface, they will know that we charge some sort of money, you know, for the usage of the network.
Got it. So could you be regarded in some respects as almost a SaaS model, because you're offering a service that is your technology, because multi-party computation is something that is the core of your whole, and is the core asset that you offer?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can think about it as a SaaS, because like on the infrastructure level, it's going to be in the form of MPC, so
Mm-hmm.
a group of nodes that compute on encrypted data across all the banks. But then, like, if you think about it, application layer, it's going to be, you know, some analytics tools, and also some, you know, like, it's a SaaS system. So that's why I said, you know, like, one of our kind of revenue streams comes from the customization for industry specific use cases, right?
Mm-hmm.
So think about the banks, they want to calculate a lot of risk, you know, metrics. They also want to search in encrypted forms for their clients, right? Think about if they want to search Felix, you know, has like several loans across the banks, right? Mm-hmm. But then they want to preserve that secret information, because if other banks know that they search for Felix, they'll find my number and call me and offer me a lower rate.
Got it.
Right?
And that's where the data is gold. You know, it's the new gold, essentially, this data that you represent. So clearly, given that we're talking about Baidu banks, and not to foam all of this, but you must have a huge pipeline of revenue potential already, if we're talking at that level.
I think, you know, we are still a startup. We have very fast growth, and we have, you know, very good pipelines. But think about, you know, collaborating with these large companies still requires a very long time of delivery, right? So all these projects takes, you know, 3 to probably even longer, 3 months or even longer, because, you know, the banks have very slow decision process. You know, the internet companies, for example, you know, we also target marketing, right? We target basically 2 main industries, finance and also marketing. So
Mm-hmm.
for marketing, it's faster because most of them are digital kind of advertising companies, like Kongming. Like Kongming is also a partner that we have, and is also a public company in China. So they have faster kind of decision process, so we can implement it in a matter of 2-3 months. But the banks usually takes probably like 6 months. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So given all of this is happening, and you were hinting more, is there anything else you wanted to add that you can disclose with regard to the kinds of people you're talking to as the CEO to really enable these enterprises, particularly in the traditional sector, where they have substantial revenue, where they have a mainstay position, or they are, as you mentioned before, they are a Fortune 100 or 200 company? Are there any more like that are considering using your technology?
Yeah, actually, like, so the good thing that's happening, I think, in the whole blockchain industry is that enterprises are really willing to test out, you know, blockchains. Mm-hmm. So, you know, you can see the use case, you can see blockchains getting implemented in finance, you know, in supply chain, and also in a lot of like alliance, so like industry alliance for all different kind of industries, right? But then, like, think about like the real use case for now, you know, on blockchain is just like saving data for like, that's you know, it's not something that I really want to see, but it's actually the truth is that people, you know, all the enterprises save data and use it as kind of like a secure database to save data. So if they want to create more value with that blockchain, they will use MPC. For example, they want to, so like, for example, like one alliance of the industry wants to know the industry average risk metrics. So say, like, just going back to the Sinochem case, you know, like all of these energy companies, they want to know the industry average kind of risk level or some risk metrics for hedging, right? But then, like, they also they don't want to disclose their own information on risk metrics because people might take advantage of them, right? So they want to put it together without losing each of them their own kind of privacy. So in the old way, they'll do it through a data intermediary, right, who collects all the data and who claim that they are 100% like, like they will not do the same business as these companies, right?
Sure.
But then like data is getting more and more valuable, and people have more concern about sharing data to one another. So that's really that's really where we comes in, and we come in and providing a more secure solution for data sharing.
Right, and you're doing it in a decentralized way, which is really novel. And I think that also harps back to the team, because some of the team members on that I've read through in your core team, and also you have a research team. Now, some of them are absolute experts when it comes to the multi-party computation. Now, I want to link that then to the discussion of patents, for example. Are you going to somehow protect some of this research, protect some of this technology, so that it's other teams can't just go and use it, abuse it, or appropriate it?
That's a good question. We will probably like patent some use cases, but not the cryptography protocol itself, because the paper is open sourced, and so it's really about some specific use cases that we can build our kind of competitive advantage over the others, over probably the followers.
So you'll have to get moving fast then, if that's the case, because if people start to really understand the code that you've released, and it becomes accessible once you hit mainnet, then surely there are going to be appropriators and copycats out there.
That's correct. Yes. But then, like, I think we still have kind of the higher barrier versus a lot of other projects, because we are like pure cryptography, which is very hard to understand, and very few people studies this subject. And also, like, everything within our network is distributed, right? Distributed computing. So you still have the tech people, the tech team that's able to handle large scale distributing systems and before, right? So think about we have 2 guys from Google who used to build large scale distributed computing network, and also for security as well. We have cryptographer from Tsinghua who got a PhD in Tsinghua, work full-time as our team member. And within our 9 core team member who's working full-time on this project, 7 of us came back from the US, and 1 came back from France, the other 1 came back from Japan.
Just to do ARPA.
Yes, just to ARPA, 100% committed.
Right. Well, I did notice that you have a lot of PhD success, like people who've actually done and completed their PhD. Some are candidates. And one person that I found quite interesting was Dragos Rataru. I'm sorry if I pronounced it wrong, but he is a multi-party computation specialist. So you've really worked hard to try and formulate a strong team of engineering experts, of data experts, of blockchain experts as well. So kudos to you there. What about the wider team itself? How many is in the whole team, not just that core?
Yeah, the core team, I'm talking about full-time team, is 9 person. And for the whole team, we have around 15 people. So basically, we have 6 people working part-time, including Dragos and Mark Simkin. Those are the top kind of cryptographer. They are the students, the PhD students for top cryptography professors. Professor Ivan Dangard and Nigel Smart, who are the founding figures for secret sharing MPC. And also we have system architects working at Google and working at other big companies, working part-time for us, just out of interest, right? So for this whole team, we all know each other for a very long time. So I actually traveled to the US for Crypto 2018 conference to meet with Mark Simkin. And also we got to know Dragos through connections of our friends, and we keep talking about this idea, and they all get very interested and help our project. Right. And for our team, we all know each other at least for 3 years, all of us, right? So think about, I know my first co-founder, Derek, we knew each other when I first came back to Beijing from New York. back in 2016, and I knew our tech lead, Jiang Chen, back in 2015 in New York through one of my best friends. Right. So the whole team is very kind of stable even in this kind of crypto downturn.
Right.
Ever since the inception of our team, we didn't see ETH price go up, and nobody on our team is kind of betting on.
And we will talk about the runway, and we'll talk about the raise as well. But it's good to know, because when I first looked at your team, the predominant reality was that many of them came from the same region, that was China. And obviously with the hustle we know, I wanted to know more about the veracity, the quality, the expertise, and you've all articulated that now, so I appreciate that. Well, if we could talk about the partners for a moment. You've got quite a few. You've mentioned some really important ones already. BlockCloud's another. IOST is another. Are there anything you'd like to say in the general list that you have that really stands out in your mind with regard to the partnerships that we haven't discussed?
Right. Actually, like, I think it separates from kind of the enterprises and public blockchains, right? So for enterprises, we have, we have Sinochem, we have Comming, we have, we are also we are also in talk with several very large companies like Baidu, like Toutiao, the parent company of TikTok, and also Minsheng Bank, right? So these are all in the pipeline. And
that's pretty big.
Yeah, those are very big companies if you search them up. And for blockchains, we partner with. So currently we build our testnet on top of Ethereum, but we also partner with Ontology, VChain, and IOST to build layer 2 privacy preserving computation solution for their blockchains.
Okay, that's also a big deal, because they're substantial in China, they're reputable as well, particularly Ontology. So that must be exciting that your SaaS could technically onboard into their whole ecosystems.
Yes. We think that we have a lot of things in common with. We can share a lot of things with Ontology, because they focus on identity, they focus on KYC, and for us we can even expand their network, because we provide privacy preserving feature for these data sources to come in and provide KYC for people.
Right, and I apologize for interrupting. You were saying also, I think you're going to allude to BlockCloud.
Oh, and also BlockCloud, because so basically we met BlockCloud around a year ago, and I'm very impressed by their team. Who used to be roommates from their core team. I think the three of their co-founders were roommates back in college, and they've been working together for at least like 5-6 years together in the past. And then we exchanged a lot of ideas, and really like their position as the kind of
TCP/IP layer, the layer 0.
Layer 0, and which is very compatible to a lot of blockchains that we are also in talk or partner with, right? So together we can build an even larger ecosystem with BlockCloud and public blockchains, and also ARPA.
Right, and that explains a lot about that. So will you also likely move out into other non-Chinese domains, like into the West, where you possibly partner with other main blockchains?
Yes, actually, like in Korea, we are now in talk with Round X, which is the blockchain arm for Kakao, the largest IM company in Korea.
Right.
And also, like in the in the West, we've been talking to we talked to Dfinity before, and we probably resume our conversation right now, because we have a lot of progress these days. And others, we are very open to building partnerships and building like kind of solutions.
Well, these are big names as well. I mean, you're talking Dfinity, one of the more reputable ones. Obviously, there's others like Algorand, for example. It'll be exciting to see you unfold in terms of how you interact in that space, because the names I'm hearing so far are all pretty much top tier. So you're the real deal. You're literally really trying to build out something that's here to stay for decades and beyond.
That's what we hope to do. Like we want to build things that people can use and people feel they feel valuable, using our solution.
Okay. Now let's talk about whether you can afford it. Now the ICO itself, it's interesting, but you need to raise capital to be able to continue forward. So what's the situation for you with money? Where are you at?
That's a very straight question.
It is.
Yeah, I like it. So basically, we had two very small rounds back, in before. So in total, we raised somewhere between like around $2 million before. And right now, we are still looking to do ICO and also to build up awareness for people. And these days, IEO is very hot, as a hot topic. Today, actually, Top Network got on Huobi Prime, and definitely sold out in a couple seconds, right? So we are exploring that opportunity.
Amazing. 7 seconds doesn't take long.
Did you participate?
No, I didn't. I'm actually a really big fan of Top Network, and I'm really hoping to become an ambassador with them because I do support the technology. But to be honest, I just thought to myself it would likely end up with something like 7 seconds. I didn't think it would be that fast, but it becomes almost too crazy, the IEO, because there's just so much hype. So in that respect, let's keep talking about that. Obviously, you're thinking in that context. So tell us more.
On IEOs or what?
Just on IEOs, on the discussion on the topic of raising capital. I mean, that's what we're going for ARPA. That's what I want to know.
Gotcha. Right. So I think IEO, like in general, is very good to build up community and also to build up awareness. Right. So right now, like we are thinking about doing IEO with in a couple regions. For example, Vietnam. And so all these emerging markets, people are very kind of eager for good projects, right? Good, solid.
Yes, they're hungry. Clearly, they're hungry because 7 seconds indicates an insatiable hunger for top. So what you're suggesting is that you're focusing on areas, particularly in those developing regions, where the developer community is strong, the blockchain community is strong. Perhaps even the speculative community is strong, but all of these things have aligned for a very strong interest in quality this year and trust. So can you bring that though, Felix? Can you bring that to the table as a product or as a startup that can actually garner this kind of interest at these highest levels?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like if we do it ourselves, it's going to take a very long time, right? So we partner with probably the largest or at least the second largest community in those local countries, right? So they always have, because like our projects, I would say it's very solid from a technical standpoint, and also from like the team standpoint. So like when we partner with them, they can make people aware of our projects, and I hope they can make people interested in our technology as well and the use cases as well. Right. So like in that way, we can raise some money, but that's not the biggest purpose. Still kind of spread words and also spread the awareness in those countries, in those communities, right? And also for like English language, we have a lot of we have a lot of things in our arsenal for press releases, right? All the partnerships with large companies and all the contracts.
Right. All the things that you're not telling me right now that you know. So that's cool to know. And I really appreciate your transparency and honesty. Quite frankly, very few CEOs go this far. So you're saying that you're aware of the imperatives of media, the imperatives of media releases, but more importantly, you're engaging with communities that are far-reaching in different areas so that you can really become known as the credible, or from your position, and your argument is that it's a credible, real, and justifiable startup that deserves entry in that top tier status. So that is exciting that you are going to be able to, become part of those communities as a starting point. But what's the point from there? What's the plan in terms of the listing?
Oh, for listing. Yeah, we are in talk with several top list stock exchanges. Actually, like we are target. We target to get listed in late May or June. So that's how we kind of making our efforts to get into exchanges and also pitch them about our technology and also about our kind of plan for build up community, right? So right now we have somewhere between we have around like 8,000 people in our Telegram group. But then we do want to expand that into more people, and then we'll also open multiple language Telegram channels and also probably the WeChat group and also Kakao group.
And is that all trusted organic growth?
Those are like those who are in our Telegram group. We didn't spend a dime to acquire all these users. They just like natural traffic. I think because last year we did some press release, and if you search ARPA, there were like a lot of information dated back to probably the last June or July. So that's when people first knew us. And now, like with our progress since last year, people will be impressed by how much things this team can do just within like a matter of a year. Yes.
Got it. Now let's move back to money for a discussion. Again, you said that I was very candid before, so I'll try and be more along that line. Now, money. Let's talk about how much you have now in your runway, because obviously you need that to continue. Is money an issue? Is this the reason why you're doing this? And is this predominantly the main means of raising through your utility token? Is that the main strategy?
So can you rephrase the question a little bit? Because I don't quite.
So with regard to your plan to move forward with the raise, essentially to move forward and list, the idea is to really build out more interest in ARPA, generate more value in your token. So already you've done some private sales, is that right? So far?
Yeah, we did 2 rounds of private sales.
Yeah. So how much in total was that?
Yeah, in total it was a little less than $2 million.
Okay, so I ask you this because that's not much money in blockchain. What's your current position and your runway, given that you raised a relatively small amount? Are you strapped for cash, and are you really needing this next step right now to continue?
Actually, from the company standpoint, with all these pipelines and contracts with large companies, we can sustain ourselves. At least we can sustain our current team for at least a matter of a year. However, we want to get more awareness from people, and then as long as we have awareness from the crowd, hopefully we can also get awareness to the enterprises.
Right, I see. I've got you. So really, it's getting the attention of the enterprises that's the imperative in this next year or so that you can really start to build beyond that and really scale.
I would say both, because these so MPC can also be used to to build products for customer facing, right? Not only business to business, but also business to customers or to normal users. Think about a dating app, right? So if you have a dating app with the MPC matching engine to get secure matching on encrypted data, you don't have to write everything on your profile page. But then after the match, you will disclose more information because you share the same interests or something. So right. A lot of use cases can be done when we raise awareness from the community as well.
Right. Yeah, sure. I appreciate your transparency also on that. And just finally as well, Felix, wanted to ask you for more information. If people wanted to find out about ARPA, to really get engaged and really read up on them, where do you suggest they go, and how can they better engage?
I would say the first place is going to be our website, which is the arpachain.io. And on that website, you can apply to our testnet. You can also watch our demo video. and also join our Telegram or follow us on Twitter or Medium. Right, this is the best place that has all the information that we have.
Absolutely. Well, mate, it's been a really comprehensive interview. I've learned a great deal about it. Clearly, you're the real deal when it comes to privacy preservation. The big buzzword that I'm hearing from you is that multi-party computation. That's your secret sauce. And it'll be really exciting to see how this integrates with the largest companies, you know, some of them in China, Baidu, for example, how they integrate, how blockchains even, like Ontology, like Block Cloud, like the likes of Dfinity potentially in the future, Hyperledger, I mean, all kinds of potentials there. But what's exciting is that you have a team, they're cryptographically based or steeped in knowledge and expertise. You have a lot going for you in the future, especially given your strategy. You're approaching developing regions with strong communities, and you're doing that between now and towards May and June. So I look forward to talking to you hopefully then as you move towards that mainnet phase. And I wish you all the very best, mate, because clearly you're trying to do something that it takes part in this real deal aspect of the blockchain.
Thank you, Brad. That's what we always try to do. Like, we started this project. We actually I had this idea with Derek, which is my co-founder, you know, back in late 2017, and so they're like, we all kind of, so in the past, you know, we all worked in the data industry. So I did venture capital investments focused on AI and big data, and Derek, you know, who used to work in the data industry as a data scientist for banks and also for tech startups. So we always find the data is the most valuable thing. However, there's no secure way for data sharing or transfer. And when we got to know blockchain, you know, blockchain appeared to us as a very fascinating idea without privacy, right? So how can people or enterprises use blockchain without, you know, that kind of feature? So
right.
Incorporating these 2 points, you know, we started this project, and ever since that, you know, like, we try to build something great.
Right. Well, I wish you all the very best, mate. So the two things I'm hearing, privacy and data, you're bringing that to that second layer solution position for blockchains. You're going to bring it for enterprise and bring it for the people, because individuals can also capitalize on this. So, mate, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. And hopefully we can catch up again soon to really explore the next iteration, the next development phase for ARPA and ARPAchain.io.
Thank you, Brad.
You're welcome, mate.
Thanks.